Hey everyone, I thought it'd be interesting to follow up on the last video where we styled a table in AngularJS in a web application using Bootstrap CSS, and this time to style that same table using Material UI CSS framework in our AngularJS web application. So we'll use the same data source using an Angular service and an Angular interface to render the table data, and instead of rendering it, styling it using Bootstrap CSS, we will style it using Material UI. So let's take a look at what this looks like. You can see here how we have our original table. This is rendering random JSON data, which I'll show you in just a moment. Styling using Bootstrap CSS. If we take a look at the code, here is our data. You can see it's just randomly generated JSON data. We're serving this using JSON server on localhost and getting that table using Bootstrap. So if we head into our Angular application, you can see in the source, in the Angular JSON, you can see where we're referencing our Bootstrap styles and Bootstrap script, and we're going to use Material UI. So here's our original component. You can see how it is indeed using Bootstrap CSS classes, table striped, table hover, and that's really what gives us this whole hover effect and styling, as you can see. So let's see how to create this using Material UI. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to install the Material UI framework. So make sure that you're in the same folder as your angular.json file right here, and then execute the command ng, let's see here, add angular/material. So this will install the Material UI. We're going to use the magenta violet framework. Say no to the custom typography. We'll include animations, sure. Let it install all the npm modules. Okay, so this is now complete. So the next thing that we can do is we're going to create a common module to house the Material UI components. So the way we do that is create a new file. Actually, we can do this straight from ng. We'll say ng generates module, and we'll call it material. Okay, so this should have created a new material module, and let's see here. And we can find that inside source app material. There's our module. Now in this module, we're going to include a couple of new styles for this that we'll be using to style our table using Material CSS. We're going to use mat table, mat paginator, and mat sort module for sorting the data. In addition to that, we're going to include it in the imports. We're going to include it in the exports. This will make it available to our other components. Mat table, mat paginator, and mat sort. That looks pretty good. We'll leave the rest as it is, and we'll save that file. So now the next thing that we're going to do, so far so good. Let's make sure that our program still runs by running ng serve. We'll wait and see and make sure this builds. Okay, it's building. All right, and if we look at our web application, okay, it's still rendering just like it was, so no problems there. Let's move on to the next step, which is we're going to generate a new component, ng generate components. This will be our Material UI table, and we'll call it hello-material. Okay, so this has created a new component called hello material. All it does is outputs this single little text, so let's just make sure it works. Here's the tag for it. We will go into our app components. There's the original hello. We'll add a little HR with some border to it. Margin, oh, I don't know, 25 pixels, sure. And after that, we'll put in our app hello material tag. This is the root tag to house our material UI table. We'll save that component, and of course, if we take a look at the web application, what do we get? There was an error. Hold on a second, because I think everyone should see that. So you can see app hello material is not a known element. That's because we forgot to add the import for it. That's why we're doing this live, so everyone can see. So we just have to go into the TypeScript file, and we need to import that new component. So in hello material component.ts, import, I'm sorry, not in this, we need to include it in the app components here. So we're going to import hello component material. We're also going to include it in the imports here so that it's available within the HTML view. And now if we save this and we check the web page, sure enough, there's the new component being rendered. Now let's get a table going in there. So here's how we're going to do that. We're going to head over to hello material component.ts. So this right now is completely empty, and it's just rendering a text message. So we're not going to use that text message. Instead, we're going to copy exactly what we have in the other table. So first, let's take the entire TypeScript code and paste it into hello material component. And then we're going to bring back the naming, hello material components, and app hello, and hello-material.components, and hello-material. So now if we save this, it should still load, and if we check the web application, okay, it's still loading, that looks good. Now let's copy over the HTML as well. So we'll take the entire HTML, we'll bring it over to our hello material components that we have it. We don't need this at the top. And if we save this and we take a look at our result here, you can see we have two tables exactly the same using Bootstrap styling. Now, let's see how to style this table using Material UI. Alright, so the way that we'll do this is we're going to head into the component.typescript, and we're going to add a couple of additions to this. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add sorting capability. So we'll add mat table data source, which will be the data source for the Material UI table. That's required for rendering in Material UI. And we're also going to include mat sort for sorting. And the other thing, let's see here, we need to import that material module that we created before. So we'll do material module from /material. Yeah, that looks like the right path. Okay, very good. Next, we're going to include material module as the import. That looks pretty good, and we're getting there. So the next step is we're going to include, we have to have a list of display columns, which Material UI uses to render that table data. So we're going to create a read-only constant string called displayed columns. And these are the same column names that come from our mock data. So we take a look at the database. You can see that these are the fields that we're going to render. So we're going to have ID, first name, last name, email, and image. Those are all included. To facilitate sorting, we're also going to include two new values here for view child and this data source. So now we're going to implement the data source object, which is what Material UI uses to render that table. So we're going to say data source equals new mat table data source of this .data. This .data holds our JSON data that it loads from the server. Okay, view child. All right, let's take this out for the moment. We don't need that just yet. Actually, we don't need either one of these just yet. Okay, so that's a pretty good start. So now we'll just take a look back at our web application and let's see what it looks like. Make sure everything's still loading. Yep, no change yet because we haven't changed the rendering of the HTML. So let's do that next. So we'll head over to the HTML and we're going to get rid of all of this. And we're going to replace it with our own HTML. Now to save everyone the time that it would take me to type this, I will just copy and paste it instead. Just like so. So what we have here is, you can see here, this HTML is significantly different than the Bootstrap HTML that we used. We still have a table component, but now we have these attributes for Material UI. You can see we also have mat sort, and we're specifying our data source, as well as all of the columns from display columns that we're going to be rendering into display columns. So the structure is quite a bit different. Let's take a look at what that looks like right off the bat. You can see there's our original Bootstrap table, and here is our new Material UI table. Now, that's pretty good, but it's a little bit ugly. Let's see what we can do to beautify that a little bit. So the first thing is we can use a style. So if you head over to your styles.css and add a new import at the top, imports indigo pink style is pretty good. We don't need this tilde. And if we take a look at what did that do? Well, that changed the style, as you can see, so that it's a little bit lighter and clearer looking. I think this is already looking really snappy. One other thing, notice we have a caption here, styled using Material UI. Let's add that same caption to the Bootstrap table, just so that we can see the difference. So we can do that right here using caption, styled using Bootstrap CSS. If we save that file and take a look at the results, you can see how oops, I made a mistake here and included it in the wrong file. We want it in hello vanilla material. So we'll go into the HTML and where it belongs, which is right there. So now if we take a look at the result, you can see we have a caption on the Bootstrap table and a caption on the Material UI table. Next, let's add a hover effect, just like we have for the Bootstrap table. So that's pretty easy to do. All we have to do for this, let me close some of these tabs out. Too many tabs, I can't concentrate. The way that we can do that is we can go into the CSS for the material component and for Material UI, and we can include a new style like this. We'll save that. And if we head back over to the result, now we have a nice little hover effect. So that's pretty cool. We also have the sortable columns. The sort functionality isn't implemented because that would take a little bit longer, but you can see that the styling is here, and you could certainly implement this yourself if you so choose. So let's just let's change the background color just like the Bootstrap table when we hover over that. So what we can do for that is we can say backgrounds, oh, let's see here, sure, that seems pretty good. If we take a look back at the result, now we have a nice hover effect, just like the Bootstrap table. So maybe you want to take it one step further, have a little bit of fun, and say light, sure, light pink. Take a look at that result, and you can see now we have a nice little light pink cover. Okay, maybe that was too much. That's a bit too much. We'll put it back to the F5. I think that was a really slick look, and that also gives us a really great comparison for Material UI versus the Bootstrap table. So that's really pretty much it. I think that this adds a really nice effect. Material UI has that kind of gradient shade behind the drop shadow behind the table. It's got a little bit of a more pop to it. Bootstrap can have that too, but the default style is a little bit flat. And so that's about it. So just to summarize, if we take a look back at the code here, we added Material UI to our Angular. We then defined a custom material module to house the common components used in Material UI across our components. We created a new Angular component specifically to house the Material UI version of our table, which we implemented the Material UI HTML tags to render the data, along with the changes for implementing a data source using mat table data source. And the end result gave us two different styles of tables, one using Bootstrap CSS and one using Material UI. So I hope that this has been a really educational and fun little project, styling a table in Angular using Material UI compared to Bootstrap CSS. I hope that you'll like and subscribe to my channel. If you enjoy these videos and want to see more, comment below and let me know what you'd like to see next. And we can play with a couple more web application development, maybe in React or other frameworks. Until then, thank you.